Maximize Business Value podcast. This podcast is brought to you by Mastery Partners, where our mission is to equip business owners to maximize business value so they can transition their business on their terms. Our mission was born from the lessons we've learned from over 100 business transactions, which fuels our desire to share our experiences and wisdom so you can succeed. Now here's your host, CEO of Mastery Partners, Tom Bronson.
Hi, this is Tom Bronson, and welcome to Maximize Business Value, a podcast for business owners who are passionate about building long-term sustainable value in their businesses. Today, our guest is Rich Cavaness, a business owner and author of Power to Thrive. Elevate your everyday living by unlocking your God-given power so you can rise above mediocrity. Now, you may recall that Rich has been our guest before. In fact, it was this same week that we're releasing this podcast last year when I had him on to talk about his book, The Gratitude Effect. Shift your mindset, optimize your outcomes, and boost emotional well-being. So Rich's books are wonderful. I mean, he speaks from the heart, he speaks truth, and they are so powerful and uplifting. And I am so thankful for his friendship that I thought this is the perfect week to have him back to the podcast for Thanksgiving week again. Maybe we'll make this an annual event. Richard, I know you've got lots of books. We can have many conversations about the books that you've already written, but you'll have to keep up if we're going to be doing this every year on Thanksgiving week. I've known Rich for many years, and my book writing, he is my book writing coach, business partner, and a great friend. So welcome back to Maximize Business Value, Rich.
Glad to be here, Tom. Always great to be on your podcast. I'm honored, I'm humbled. And it's kind of fun that I always, Thanksgiving's a special holiday to me. And I'm very honored that you choose to have you and I in a conversation together with your podcast. And this is going to be a great one today. I'm excited about it. Thank you.
I think all of your books, and I've read them, and they all point to how thankful I am for many things, and so I just think it's so appropriate to have you back here now. Of course, because this podcast is for business owners, let's start by telling a little bit. You are a business owner yourself, so tell us a little bit about your business or businesses.
All right, so my major business is an insurance agency. It's a farmer's insurance agency. Actually acquired that in May of 2020, right during the middle of the pandemic. And great move on my part, actually.
Could it really be that long? 18 months? Wow.
Yeah, so it's been going great. We've been breaking records. We've been doing great. Got a great staff, adding staff. I mean, I'm just really excited about it. And so that's here in Dallas. It's right, we're just north of Galleria Mall at the tollway. Of course, I have my book writing and Christian coaching business, and that's I'm really starting to ramp that up a lot more. And so we'll be doing a lot with that over the next 12 months or so. And next year, I'm working with a couple business partners, Cody Askins from 8% Nation, and then Coach Michael Bird, who wrote the foreword for Power to Thrive. We're going to be actually doing a Power to Thrive conference next year. So it's going to be dedicated towards Christian professionals. And so it's going to be something like nobody's ever seen before. So I'm very excited about that.
Wow. I'm excited to hear about that. You and I haven't talked about that. So I'm very excited about hearing about that. I mean, jeepers, do you sleep, Rich?
Well, let's put it this way, Tom, to be honest with you, I've really learned, especially during the pandemic, that instead of paying attention to all the fear and all the stuff going on around me, I really focused on producing and putting things into my mind that were productive. And so, I just used my spare time, to be honest with you. We all have, one of the things I teach in coaching is that we all have 8 hours approximately a day of spare time, right? You spend 8 hours sleeping approximately, you spend 8 hours working approximately, and then it leaves you with 8 hours of spare time. And I really believe it's what you do with that spare time that really makes the difference in your life and in the world with what you do with it. You can choose to, lounge around on the couch. You can choose to surf on the internet for endless hours. I mean, there's a lot of things you can choose to do. I've just chosen to, and my passion is somewhat your passion as well. I love to write. I love to research. I like to help people improve their lives. And so that's what I'm really committed to doing.
I know you are a great educator. Although that wasn't listed among the things, you are an educator, and you're passionate like I am about teaching people things that they can use in their lives and in their everyday business. All right, well, that's an amazing kind of backstory. And so now our audience will have an appreciation that the things that we're going to talk about today are things that you've put into practice even in your own business. So let's just dive right into the deep end, into Power to Thrive. Could you explain what Power to Thrive is all about?
So Power to Thrive has actually been something that I've had kind of, and you can relate to this, Tom, when you're an author and you write books and you put out content and material, sometimes you can have that stuff in your brain germinating for years. I mean, you have an idea, you may even write it down, and it's just kind of there, and it formulates and percolates and all of that. And I would say since 2006, I've had a desire to write Power to Thrive. Just things happen. There was things that happened in my personal life, business life. It just kind of didn't come together. But then over the last probably 24 months, I've really kind of tackled it and realized this is what I need to do, and this is where it's going. And it's morphed into different things, just like every book does. But it's a culmination of 30 years of Bible study, professional development, my research and study on psychology and science, about how the brain works and behavior patterns of people and that kind of thing. So it's a very powerful book. The feedback that I'm getting is that it's a Christian personal development book like nobody's ever read before. It's very unique. It is filled with lots of Bible passages, and it has a lot of very interesting stories, and as well as a lot of facts and science and psychology. So it's a very unique book, with a very unique coaching process that I have built into it. At the end of every chapter, there's coaching that I actually do, where I try to help people apply what they've just read. So that's really important to me as an educator and a teacher, that you just don't read it, but how does this really affect your life? What's the impact on it? But the core of it, Tom, the core of Power to Thrive is built off one scripture, and it's probably the most underutilized scripture in the entire Bible, as far as personal development and just personal success. And it comes from 2 Timothy chapter 1, verse 7. And it says that God has not given us the spirit of fear, but power, love, and a sound mind. And so what I've done, and I've taken those four things, fear, power, love, and a sound mind, and I've kind of incorporated them into the book. And then I've developed a whole coaching and training system based around those four things.
I love that. In fact, every time I get into a conversation about fear, I can't help but think about Tony Robbins and what he says about fear, false evidence appearing real, right? And I know you're a big fan of Tony Robbins the way I am, but well, that's wonderful. So fear, I wrote these down so small, I have to put on my glasses: fear, power, love, and sound mind. So those are kind of the...
Yeah, and if you think about it, Tom, they all tie together. I mean, obviously God in his great wisdom obviously knows how we work the best, but if you operate in a spirit of fear, you lose your power. Okay. If you lose your power, it affects your ability to love. And if you don't have your power and you don't know how to love, then it affects your brain, it affects your mind. And especially the concept in that scripture, it says sound mind, which has a lot to do with how we make decisions, how we process facts, how we do those kind of things, which a lot of people need help with today, because there's not a lot of sound mind going on. There's a lot of hysteria. There's a lot of untruth. There's a lot of fake news. There's a lot of fear. And so you have to really disseminate what's going on out there. And that's where the sound mind comes in, to just take put aside the fear, and then just take a look at what's really going on. So yeah, I think Power to Thrive for a lot of people is going to be kind of a post-pandemic kick in the pants. It'll allow them to really kind of get life back on track again.
And Lord knows we need to have a lot of people who need a post-pandemic kick in the pants.
There you go.
For sure. So now when you talk about power, you're not talking about kind of domineering power over other people. To when I read the book, and of course you were kind enough to send me an advanced copy before it was ever published, but it's published now, of course, folks. By the way, I'm a little miffed that when you gave me this, although you gave me a wonderful handwritten note on the inside, you didn't sign it. You didn't sign it, Rich. I know you feel like I do. It's a little precocious when I give away a book. I never sign it unless someone asks me to. And dead burn it, I was with you last week. I should have asked you to sign my copy of the book. So anyway, so what kind of power are we talking about here? Like inner power or power over others? What are we talking about?
That's a very good question. Very good question. So there's actually three types of power that we talk about in Power to Thrive. There's the negative power, which is exactly what you just described. You're using power to manipulate and coerce and force people to do certain things for you. Then there's personal power, which is you being empowered to actually take control of your own personal life, right? Personal power. And then there's what I call Holy Spirit power, which is basically God's power from on high given to us when we accept him into our lives. And what Jesus promised, as a matter of fact, he basically said, when I leave, I will send the power of the Holy Spirit to you to come upon you. So so when you combine that power with your personal power, that's where you really, your life accelerates, it grows, it expands, because now you're tapping into the creator of the universe and not just trying to do it all on your own.
What a wonderful, wonderful message. Now, you mentioned as you were kind of unfolding what the book is really about, that it is a unique book and coaching system. Now, you said very unique, and of course, I hear in my college professor ringing in my ears. If the definition of unique is one of a kind, how can you be very one of a kind? So unique is perfectly acceptable to me, because I agree it is unique. So, what makes the book and coaching system so unique?
I've never professed, Tom, to be a grammar specialist, so that's why I have editors. I just write stuff on paper and then people improve it. So that's
Yes.
That's the beautiful thing about being an author, is I don't have to do that. I pay people to do that, and they make me look good. So
yes, they do, and I pay some of the same people. I agree with you.
But what makes it unique is that it's, you have kind of like your Joel Osteens out there, and then you have your, Wayne Dyer, and, those would be like two opposite ends of the spectrum. One's more new age, and then you've got one that's quasi-Christian and that type of thing. What I really, because I'm an educator and a teacher, that's my gift mix. I really like people to get value when I write something. It's easy to write and say something like, think good thoughts, or just get out of your comfort zone. And it's great to tell people those things, but I like to give them ways to help them do that. Or I like to explain to them why they're doing what they're doing, to help them understand, so that they can then say, I don't want to go down that path anymore. I want to do something different. So I think what really makes Power to Thrive unique is that it's a combination of the Bible. It's got psychology, science, personal development, all wrapped in together. And then it has kind of a coaching system that's tied to it. And so, it's not just a bunch of words or some great thoughts or something. It's something that's well thought out. It's backed by a lot of science and psychology, and it's all cited in here, so people can check it out for themselves. But there's some really good material in here that, if you really want to, study and research, it gives you the ability to kind of do that. And so I'm pretty excited about that. But I just really believe that for some reason, Christian personal development's really been given a bad rap over the years, Tom, because a lot of times it's lumped together with what I call the prosperity gospel message, where it's basically, hey, think big thoughts and then you're going to get rich. God's going to bless you. He wants everyone to be a millionaire, that type of thing. And so that's not what this is. This is not that at all. I do believe that everybody was made unique and created for a definite purpose by God. And I do believe that he wants us to do great things. There's no doubt in my mind about that. So you'll see that throughout the book, but at the same time, it's not just, say it, claim it type of thing. That's not what this is. So I think that's what makes this unique, is that there's actually some teeth to this. There's some really good material that you can sink your teeth into and see some actual change in your life.
Thank you for making that distinction, because I think you're absolutely right. I think that there's a lot of bad information out there, or misinformation about some of the things you referenced there, prosperity, gospel, things like that. Look, God does have a plan for each and every one of us, and those plans are as unique as we are, right? And we have to be willing to kind of take action. So thanks for drawing that distinction. A second ago, you mentioned about, coming back post-pandemic. I feel like we're post-pandemic, but I think we're still probably in the throes of pandemic. Depending on how you look at the stats and the misinformation and all of kind of the things that are out there. But when we talked, you gave me a term, PPSD, or post-pandemic stress disorder.
Yeah.
So, tell us about that and how Power to Thrive addresses this disorder.
So psychologists, therapists, my daughter is actually a therapist, and she can tell you, just in the healthcare industry, there is some serious PTSD going on. There's a lot of people that are being significantly impacted by the hours they've had to work, the things that they've seen. Put yourself in some people's shoes where, they've actually had to be at the bedside of people dying, and yet the family can't be there. And so they've actually kind of had to almost be that. I mean, if you can imagine, you're breathing your last breath, there's nobody in the room except for this nurse. I mean, that's all you have. So for a lot of people that are in the healthcare industry, it's been a very difficult couple of years. They've been isolated from their families in many respects, because they've had to, follow protocols and things like that. So it's been difficult, but PTSD is a real thing. A lot of people have lost loved ones, have lost friends, lost jobs, lost opportunities, dealing with stress, anxiety, fear. There's all of these things, and it's real. And we're seeing even in the job market where so many people aren't even, there's businesses that want to hire, and I'm one of them. It's hard to find people. And it just seems so bizarre to me that, there's a workforce out there, but for some reason, finding people has been difficult. And I think a lot of it has to do with this PTSD, post-pandemic stress disorder. And so Power to Thrive, what it does is it gets people kind of realigned again. The first part of the book, if you kind of look at the book, it's kind of laid out in three different parts. Part one deals with your identity. Part two deals with your mindset. Your outer world is a direct reflection of your inner world. And then part three is your physical and mental health will lead to emotional well-being. And within that kind of roadmap, I kind of put together a design of, finding, making sure that people understand who they are, where they come from, because I think we've lost a lot of that during the last 2 years. There's a lot of division in our country. There's a lot of issues that are dividing us. And I think we just need to get back to the basics. Who are you? Where'd you come from? Where are you going? And what happens to you when you die? Those type of things. We just need to get back to the basic fundamentals. And I think when people do that, it helps them to kind of find that center compass all over again. and then helping people with their values, their purpose, their why in life. Like a lot of people have lost kind of that, fuel, that fuel of life of, when they wake up in the morning, they dread the day instead of being excited about the day. I'm not saying that I wake up every day just bushy-eyed and bright, going after it all the time, but I do wake up pretty ready to go. I make my bed first thing and I get my day going, and it's just I have a purpose and I have a why in my life, and it's exciting to me, and so that helps a lot. And I'm committed to helping people with that as well. Mindset, I believe, is more important than talent and ability. And I think a lot of people have a wrong mindset today. And Power to Thrive is going to help people with that, especially those limiting beliefs that a lot of people have. And then just living in the past, even if you took these last 2 years. So let's say you lost your job. There's a lot of people that are angry. There's a lot of people that, have anger and bitterness in their heart about that whole thing. And, I tell people, hey, for you to move forward in your life, you're going to have to put that behind you. Because if you keep living in the rearview mirror of life, all you're going to keep doing is getting reminded about what happened to you instead of what could be happening to you right now. So I help people walk through that as well. And just anxiety, stress, we got a whole chapter on that, and just a roadmap for kind of creating some financial freedom for people. And that chapter right there, chapter 16, is one of the most unique financial chapters you'll read in a Christian book. It's not your typical budget stuff, which I do believe in a budget, and I do believe budgets are good. You don't have to have a budget, but I do believe they're good and they're helpful. But it's just a whole different perspective on creating wealth and the concept of cash flow. I'm a real, Tom, I'm kind of I kind of buck the system a little bit. I don't believe in retirement. I think it's, number one, it's not a biblical concept at all. If you read the Bible, you'll find that most people in the Bible lived to be very old, and they worked until they died. Or they couldn't physically work anymore. Okay, so I'll make that, kind of put that in there too, because if you can't work because of physical issues, that's certainly understandable. But I just really believe that people need to be busy, people need to be active, people need to have a constant purpose and a why in their life, so that as they grow older, they have something that they're working towards. Because that's one of the biggest reasons that people die in their 70s, is because they, instead of living to be in their 80s and 90s, because they just give up. It just, they kind of like, I'm retired, I'm done. So instead of refiring and getting wired up again, they're kind of just, reclining and declining. So I'm really big on that. That chapter alone is a really good chapter. I've gotten some great feedback on that one. So,
it is a wonderful chapter. And you mentioned the kind of the three things, but you started with identity, right? So why is identity such a key part of Power to Thrive?
Because it really, in my opinion, personal development begins and starts with understanding who you are, where you came from, what your purpose is in life. And when you can understand those things, and from a Christian perspective, I believe we were created. I don't believe we just evolved. And I really go into detail about the difference between creation and evolution, and where those beliefs go. I'm not, I don't condemn anybody for believing in evolution, but I want people to understand the impact of those beliefs. And so when you believe that there's a creator and that you were created for a purpose and a divine reason, versus that you just evolved and you're just here by a happenstance, it has a whole different impact on you and how you look at yourself and how you look at others. I mean, if I'm a real true evolutionist, I view you, Tom, as an obstacle to my success, because you write books too. You've bought businesses and that kind of thing, and I kind of want to get where you're at. So, I got to try to figure out a way to defeat you so that I can, you know what I'm saying? It's just, the whole thing's about survival of the fittest. You're improving skills so that you can be better than other people. And that's just not the way that God, that's not the reason why God created us. He created everybody with a unique and very special gifts so that they can use it in their life in combination with their talents and abilities and their life experience, which is a big part of that. And God wants to use that to be able to reach people. And he does it in a very amazing way through us human beings, which is kind of a crazy thought when you think about it.
I can't possibly imagine how much despair there must be for folks who just think that this was a random existence, right?
Well, it's a very prevalent thought out there. It really is. You can see it a lot on TV commercials and things. So,
oh, sure.
It's running rampant. And I just believe that a lot of times people get their identity from, obviously their upbringing, from sports, their education, their careers, things like that. And even when you go to networking meetings, Tom, you can validate this. When you ask people, tell me a little bit about yourself, a lot of times people, the first thing they say is what they do for work.
Uh-huh.
Their whole identity is their work, right? Which that's not what I asked you. I said, tell me about yourself. And so a lot of times people and that's why I put it in the book, because I'm trying to really help people to really identify who are you and what makes you unique, what makes you different. And, where's the value in you? And that's really important, because if you get that, then you start to see everyone else in life. It doesn't matter what their skin color is. It doesn't matter where they were raised, their socioeconomic level. You start then beginning to see everybody is on the same playing field. We all came from the same place. We were all created by the same God. We were all created for a unique purpose. So nobody, because that person is doing that, well, maybe that's what they should be doing. Who am I to judge that? So, it's all about supporting one another. Love, again, having power, having love, and a sound mind, right? And it's difficult to love people if you think that everybody's just randomly created.
Hey, before we take a quick break here, real quick before we go, tell us about the Thrivers Manifesto.
Okay, so the Thrivers Manifestos, if you've ever looked up the word manifesto, it's basically kind of a creed. It's kind of a list of kind of to-dos, and I've got it right in the beginning of the book. It's based off 13, I call it the Thrivers Manifesto, and it's based off of 13 really key points that basically the whole Power to Thrive system is built on. And, each one of them has an explanation. I don't want to, go into every one of them, but like the first one is, the greatest gift God gave you is the power to choose. Your choices determine where you end up in life, period. That's number one. And then number two, when you accept 100% responsibility for your life, the good, the bad, the successes and defeats, then you open the door to living the abundant life God has for you. So that just gives you an idea. So there's 13 of those. And, it just kind of lays the groundwork for what Power to Thrive is all about.
I love it that you put it right at the beginning of the book, right? But even before the forward, right? It's not chapter 1. It's even before you get into the forward. So it's a great place to start and to go out and read this book. We're going to talk more about this book and talk more about how to use the Power to Thrive to really thrive in this world and in your business. We're talking with Rich Cavaness. Let's take a quick break. We'll be back in 30 seconds.
Every business will eventually transition, some internally to employees and managers, and some externally to third-party buyers. Mastery Partners equips business owners to maximize business value so they can transition their businesses on their terms using our 4-step process. We start with a snapshot of where your business is today. Then we help you understand where you want to be and design a custom strategy to get you there. Next, we help you execute that strategy with the assistance of our amazing resource network. And ultimately, you'll be able to transition your business on your terms. What are you waiting for? More time? More revenue? If you want to maximize your business value, it takes time. Now is that time. Get started today by checking us out at www.masterypartners.com or email us at info@masterypartners.com to learn more.
We're back with Rich Cavaness, business owner and author of Power to Thrive, in addition to other books that we've talked a little bit about already. So in the book, you have a whole chapter on forgiveness. Why is that?
Well, that's a very good question. What I have discovered, of course, I've been a senior pastor previously. I've worked with a nonprofit here locally called the Road Adventure, and I just have discovered in my own personal walk that forgiveness really, it's almost like a freeing experience. And it's really not meant for, so like, for example, Tom, let's just say several years ago, you and I had a falling out, and I was very upset at you. I feel like you wronged me. You saying, "Hey, Rich, I just want you to know I'm sorry about that." That's great, but really forgiveness is for me. Right. And so that's the power with forgiveness, is that it releases the poison of anger, bitterness, and resentment from me so that I can have freedom and be able to do the things that God's called me to do. So the reason I have a whole chapter on it is because so many people live in the past. So many people, whether it's childhood trauma, whether it's abandonment as a kid, the way they were raised, things that happened to them, a lot of sexual assault, a lot of sexual stuff that happened to people. And all of those things add up in your life, and they actually really impact you as an adult. And what I find is that when people can find forgiveness with those circumstances, that it actually frees them up to be able to really do incredible things that God's created them to be. They're stuck. What I believe is that people are stuck and trapped in their past, which means that they are not able to move forward. They just keep, and this is why a lot of times people just keep hitting the wall over and over again, or they just feel, they'll use words like, "I feel like I'm stuck. I feel like I'm not going anywhere. I just can't seem to get traction in my life." Well, let's talk a little bit about that. And what you'll find is that there's usually some anger, bitterness, and resentment in their life. And when that's released, it just opens up so many doors and opportunities and frees them and gives them peace. And so I have a chapter here where I actually walk people through the process of forgiveness, which is not like what most people are used to. It's not just, where you hear a sermon and you say, "Hey, come forward," and, that kind of thing. It's a lot more involved than that, because you have to address the issue. You have to identify the person who wronged you. And then you have to identify how it affected your life and what was taken from you because of it. And when you walk yourself through those processes, then you can truly forgive. If you've ever seen the movie, oh my goodness, right on the tip of my tongue. I actually have it in the book.
I know exactly where you're going, and I'm trying to get there myself too, because why did I draw a blank?
See if I can find it quickly. I got it right here. Here it is. The Shack. Boy, I'm sorry about that.
Yeah. The Shack. You got to be in the right.
Yeah,
got to be in the right frame of mind to watch that one.
So when you see that,
or read the book. I actually have the book on the shelf over here.
Yeah, the book's great. The movie's great. But the concept of Mac having to forgive the person who murdered his daughter, and you watch how God worked with him on that, and it freed him, right? A very difficult thing, obviously, you can only imagine. But the one line that God had used with him was that, "Mac, it's not about you forgetting or forgiving that person. It's about you allowing them to stop having control of you and holding you down." So that's really what forgiveness is about. And I find that when people exercise that, even on a daily basis, you can forgive your spouse, you can forgive your employees at your business, not holding anger, bitterness, and resentment inside. It tends to just give you a more of a free experience to enjoy life and experience life to the fullest.
I love that because I forget who said this or where I learned this, but when you're angry with somebody or you're holding that resentment, I mean, who do you think it's hurting? Is it hurting them or is it hurting yourself? And forgiveness is really about letting yourself off the hook, right? So that you can be open to receive the blessings. It really, really took me a long time to understand that. But I'm glad that you understand it so well, because I feel certain that there have been many things in our past that have caused reason for you to want to give me forgiveness. So I'm thankful to give you those opportunities every day, Rich. So is when you use that as an example, say, for example, I'm really angry with Tom. So now we're going to need to explore that a little bit later. But so how is a person's comfort zone directly related to their level of fear?
Good question. So what I find is that the brain, especially the way that the brain is designed and created, it's designed to protect you. And so oftentimes what happens is that we become comfortable in what I call the comfort zone. And I use a really powerful example. When people climb Mount Everest, there's this place when you get above a certain meter, I think it's like 26,000 feet, maybe it's 20, somewhere in that range. They call it the death zone. And if you spend too much time there, your body can't actually, it's like your body is dying slowly. And what happens is that they get so many groups now that are climbing Mount Everest that they actually get this long line of people. I mean, it's massive. And these people are just going slow and slow and slow. They're running out of oxygen. And so it's a real thing. And basically how I relate it to people, especially business people, is that oftentimes for us to go to reach really high levels of success in our business, and to accomplish things that we didn't think we could accomplish, we have to take risks. And sometimes we can't see the beginning from the end. And that's what faith is, where you can actually say, you know what? I don't know how this is going to work out, but I know that if I do this, there's a very good chance that my business is going to change, or that, I'm going to, by adding staff, for example, that's a big one for a lot of business people. They're afraid to, they have their 4 people and they're really excited about those 4 people. But they don't realize that, hey, if you just added 1 or 2 more people, it could literally explode your business. And so a comfort zone is a place where we feel comfortable. It's basically where you survive. It's basically where mediocre is. You're just kind of going with the flow. But as soon as you start to get outside your comfort zone, that's when you experience fear. And a lot of times, what I tell people is that when I read that verse to them, that God has not given us the spirit of fear, it doesn't mean that you're not going to feel fearful when you do something for the first time. It just means that you're going to have the faith and trust to know that if this is really where God's leading me, then I'm going to go there because I know it's going to turn out okay. And that's what faith is. When you can't see something, you don't even really know how it's going to work out, you still follow that path anyway. And then that's really where the incredibly cool things of life happen. And so when you press through that comfort zone, I think Jack Canfield's got a great quote. He says, everything you want in life is on the other side of fear. And so you have to press through the fear. You got to almost learn to dance with it and maneuver with it. And before you know it, you're going to be, fear, you'll feel the fear, but you'll be able to do everything you want to do anyway. You'll experience it. As a matter of fact, I've even coached people now that if you're not feeling uncomfortable, if you're not feeling a little agitated or fearful when you're doing things in your business, you're probably not pushing yourself hard enough. If every day you come in, you feel comfortable and you feel like, oh yeah, this is good, and we're surviving, everything's great, then that's probably not where you need to be. If you really want to make big strides with your business, which I'd recommend you talk with Tom about to maximize your business value, he's going to tell you that there's going to be some things you're going to need to do in your business. You're going to have to change that are going to be out of your comfort zone. And but if you want your business to be as strong and healthy as it can be, that's what you got to do. So that's why the comfort zone for a lot of people is really a death zone. because it just keeps you, yeah, it, a lot of times I think that I forget the quote, but it goes something like this. A lot of people haven't physically died yet, but they live every day as if they are dead. And yeah,
Yeah.
that's very true. And that's where the comfort zone comes in. Because if you're just deciding to stay where you're at, then in a sense, you're just kind of deciding that, life doesn't have a whole lot for you.
What was from the movie Shawshank Redemption? I think it was read that
Yeah.
said you either get busy living or you get busy dying.
There you go.
And but I want to unpack a little bit of that. It's interesting that Rich, we do get into our comfort zone, right? And we set up shop, right? This is where we are comfortable, and it's hard to push through and have the courage to kind of push through. And courage is not the absence of fear,
Right.
Courage is being scared to death and still going on and taking action, right? And doing the thing that you were afraid of. But it's pushing beyond the comfort zone. But the interesting thing that happens is that pretty quickly, if you kind of break through that barrier of the fear, you establish a new base camp for your comfort zone,
It's very true.
right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And you can go set up shop and you go get all this stuff and you bring it and you set up shop. And then suddenly we get afraid again of going beyond our new comfort zone. But if we're pushing ourselves every day, everybody has a comfort zone. I mean, even the great minds of research and of the things that we're talking about, like the Tony Robbins, the Dean Graziosis, the Rich Cavanasses of the world, we all have a comfort zone, but we all kind of push through those on a regular basis, and it establishes a new comfort zone for us. What do you think about that?
Yeah, actually, I've heard people say, you need to expand your comfort zone. I actually say you need to shrink the comfort zone so that it makes it easier for you to get out of it.
Yeah.
And so the way you do that is that you just constantly push yourself beyond. A good example is, so I have a trainer that I work with twice a week, and we do strength training together. And I can honestly tell you, Tom, what he pushes me to endure every time I'm with him, there's no way in God's green earth that I would ever do it on my own. I mean, it's insane. I mean, I'm like, wow, this guy's killing me today. And, but I get out of my comfort zone at least twice a week when I do strength training because he's pushing me hard. And that it feels good. I mean, it really activates your prey drive. It activates it gets that zest of life going. And so I just really encourage people, if you feel stuck, let's find something for you that can help you get unstuck by finding something that's usually a big goal, something that you really want to shoot for that's really big. It's going to be hard to get to. If you can keep yourself focused on that really helps a lot, because you're constantly trying to think, okay, so for me to get there, I'm going to have to change me. So what do I got to change, to get there? So who do I got to become? What kind of a person do I have to become to get there? So there's that. Then what skills do I need to acquire to be able to get there? It just, then you really start to get outside the comfort zone. But if, there's so many people today that are just content and satisfied, and I just don't believe that is not, if you read the Bible, that is not the way God wants us to live life.
Right. I agree with you. If we expand our comfort zone, we're just making the place where we are a little bit bigger, right? If we shrink it down, then we make it more portable so that we can move to a new comfort zone on a regular basis. I love that. Well, and you set up a great thought for me as well when you talk about your strength coach, someone who you're working with. Let's back up for a second. We talked about Power to Thrive, not only a great book, but a great coaching system. That you needed a strength coach, right? In order to work out on a regular basis, twice a week. And how do people know whether or not they need a coach in their life?
Well, in the book, Power to Thrive, at the very back of it, I have an assessment. I encourage people to take that assessment. I also have an assessment at powertothrive.net. Which is our website that you can go to. But, basically, if if you're not satisfied with where you're at, if you feel a sense of uneasiness, if you feel kind of stuck, if you feel like there's more that, and I just not quite sure how to get there, that's an excellent place for a coach to help you. Coaches are, the whole purpose of a coach is not to do anything for you, but to help you, to come by your side and just help. They're not giving you the answers. You're coming up with the answers. That's what coaching's all about. Coaches ask great questions to get you to think about what you need to do. Because ultimately, like, for example, when it comes to my business, I have several coaches, but, the whole idea of having a coach in my business is that I come across things and I'm like, ooh, I've never done this before. I'm not sure how to navigate this. So now I got somebody that I can go to. And so you have to be humble. You got to set your pride aside, because a lot of times business owners think they know everything. And the bottom line is that when your comfort zone shrinks and you start moving outside of that more often, you're going to find that you actually know less than you thought. So that the whole idea is to expand your mind, not have a fixed mindset, but to have a mindset that allows you to be able to, be open, and an open mindset, so that you can learn new things. But a coach, I'm a firm believer that just about everyone that I know of needs a coach in life, whether it's physically, so for like a nutrition coach or some kind of a personal trainer. If you're in a business owner, you definitely need a coach. You need somebody to help you to navigate some of the things that you're going to go through. If you financial coach, that's always a good person to know. So there's a coach for everything out there right now, and I encourage people to really utilize coaches. It'll totally take your life to another level. Totally.
It's so funny when I set up our consulting practice, Mastery Partners, I never really thought of myself as a coach, but that is the most common term that our clients use when they describe our relationship to other people. Tom's my business coach. Tom is my coach. I guess I'm an exit planning coach or a business improvement coach, and I've learned to really embrace that and really realize that, yes, you're like you with going to the gym. A strength coach is going to push you to places that you don't realize that or that you can't push yourself to. So I'm a big fan of using coaches in many different places in life as well. This edition of your latest book, you've also written a number of other books, but including one of my favorites, The Gratitude Effect, which is what we talked about a year ago on this podcast. And so I would encourage people to go back and listen to that. Let me ask you something, because I'm actually finishing up my second book now. Does it get easier or harder to write new books and come up with new content?
Well, actually, so just what ended up happening with Power to Thrive. So as I was writing this, I had another one that was like, it just came in, and in a one weekend, I wrote it, and it's called Next Level Living. Every Christian Needs a Coach in Life. And it's going to be out in the next couple of weeks. So, it just happened. And I don't know, for me, I'm actually finding that it's getting a little easier every time, to be honest with you. I'm not saying that it's easy, but once you do your first book, then you have the confidence to say, well, if I've done one, I can do another. What are some, and especially people who are teachers and educators and trainers and that kind of thing, they have a lot that they can share with people to help them. And so I really encourage people to write a book, and everybody's got a book inside them, at least one, because everybody has a unique story, and that's what it's all about. So
I think it was at your seminar that I went to and encouraged my friends to go to, and it's been a couple of years now. In fact, I don't know if you're doing these. I'm going to put you on the spot because people ask me about this frequently. I went to your seminar that you did with a partner on writing a book for first-time authors. And I learned there that I think what you all said at that time was that everybody's got about 3 books in them. You've got your life story, and then you've got knowledge and things like that. And the things that I learned from you in that seminar, it was a half-day seminar. The things that I learned from you there are the things that made it easier to write a book. And you know what? We can almost do a podcast on writing a book, because I know you're very passionate about helping folks do that. But I'm glad to hear that it gets easier, because I'm finishing up book number 2. I've already outlined like books number 3 and 4, and I think you're right. It does get a little bit easier to kind of bring that information to life, if you will, for others. And don't we all owe it to everyone else, to mankind, to extract that information and put it into a book for all eternity, right?
And you know what, Tom? That's interesting, because that's where fear comes in. So a lot of times people will be like, well, nobody really cares about what I have to say. Who's going to read my stuff? I mean, nobody really, and that's where the self-doubt, the fear comes in and all of that. And it's like, hey, you'd be surprised how many people, I mean, even if it's only a couple hundred people, that's a couple hundred people that had no idea about your story or your material, and now it's made an impact on them. So yeah.
And that's frankly why we do the podcast, right? I just got a notification that we're up to 4,000 downloads now, and and by the way, we started with 20. So now we have impacted so many lives with the information that we give here. And I'm one of those that believes it's not up to me where it goes, right? There are people out there who need to hear stories and need to hear information, and I'm hopeful that the things that I'm doing, I'm very passionate about teaching others. And I love it when I get calls from folks that go, I've been listening to your podcast, or I picked up a copy of your book, and I just wanted to talk to you about these things. So I would encourage you, if every listener here has a book inside you, I would encourage you to go and explore that and find that. So we're going to have to wrap up, though. A couple of last questions. As you know, I always ask these. So Rich, you're a business owner, and this podcast is all about maximizing business value. What is the one most important thing you recommend business owners do to build long-term value in their business?
Number one, there's a big difference between being self-employed and being a business owner. And it has to do with allowing yourself to be able to hire people to do things that you don't do very well. And self-employed people do everything. Business owners hire people to do everything. That's the biggest difference. And if I could give anybody advice, and that would be, if you really want to scale your business and grow it, you need to add staff. And yes, I know that sounds scary, and I know that sounds like a lot of headaches, and it can be. But the bottom line is that you're never going to grow unless you keep growing your staff, because you got to keep giving them and growing them so that you can keep doing the things that you're doing.
I love that. Even when I started this last business, and our listeners already know, I bought or sold 100 businesses in my career, 100 transactions I've been through. And even when I started this most recent business, Mastery Partners, which is a consulting and coaching practice, I knew that I needed people to help me get to where I needed to be so that the business could take off. And by hiring people before I could ever really support them, right? I recognized that I was coming out of pocket for that, but hiring them early got me to the point where I could support them so much faster than it would have if I'd have waited to bring those folks on when you need them. So I'm not a big fan of willy-nilly going out there and hiring, but plan and execute. And it's likely that there are places in every business owner's life that their life and their business would improve by making the right strategic hires. So I think that is a wonderful piece of advice. Well, I've asked you this before, and I've had the benefit of actually going back and listening to your prior answer. So I'm really interested to hear what you're going to say next, Rich, because you always get the bonus question. What personality trait has gotten you into the most trouble through the years?
I would say for me, it's um, balancing work and family time. I tend to work too much, and even when I'm at home, I'm usually here writing some books or doing something. But I'm just one of these people that I'm just a restless soul, I guess, and I like to be creating and building things, and so I've done what I've done to help that is I don't ever take vacations locally. I always take a vacation, so I have to leave. And so what that does is it allows me to really focus on my wife or my family, my granddaughters, and so that I'm not near my businesses. I'm not thinking about them. So that's helped me a lot to actually just leave. And so because I've in the past I've taken time off and hang out at home or whatever, and it's like I'm just completely inundated. I'm on my computer, my phone, and it's like that's just not working. So, but yeah, that personality trait. I'm very driven.
That
And
is great advice for every business owner. Look, I'm a huge fan. I ask business owners when we engage with them, when was the last time you took a real vacation? And I'll hear things like, oh, well, I went down to Mexico for a long weekend last year or whatever. And no, I'm saying, when did you really step away from the business? When did you turn off the electronic devices? When did you not read your emails? When do you not respond to text messages? Because the only way to recharge our batteries is to disengage them, right? So big fan of that. I'm glad you discovered that it's hard to take those local vacations. Now, I will do the opposite sometimes. Certainly, I love to get away and shut down, but I'll take a local vacation only if it's for the purpose of accomplishing something that I really wanted to in my personal life. For example, I'm a people will find this hard to believe, but I'm a pretty handy guy, right? I can paint, I can build things, and when I was younger, I really, really took great pleasure in that stuff. Well, now we've got a couple of projects. I'm thinking I'm going to take a week off and do those projects and step away from the business. We'll see if I can leave the computer off.
the problem is, Tom, is that every day you wake up, you got to walk by that door. You got to walk by that room in their house. So
I'm going to lock the door and I'm going to give Karen the key. Do you think that'll work? I don't know. I've got all the power tools to take the door apart. So, so we'll see how that works. Hey, this has been a fun conversation. How can our viewers and listeners get in touch with you?
Best way to get in touch with me. I've got a great website for Power to Thrive. It's powertothrive.net. I've created some great value there. There's some good coaching videos for free. As a matter of fact, if you go to powertothrive.net, you can actually get the book for free. I'm just asking that you pay the shipping and handling. So it's a tremendous value. I really want people to get this in their hands. So just go to powertothrive.net and you can get the book for free with just pay the shipping and handling.
I neglected to mention that. I was waiting for that to come out in that you made the conscientious decision to give this book away for free, which is just outrageous as an author. I give away a lot of books to business owners and whatnot, but to make this book available for free and the power of the contents that are contained between the covers of this book, I just think it's a wonderful, wonderful thing. So thank you, Rich, for mentioning that. And thank you for being our guest today.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving to you. So you can find Rich at powertothrive.net. It's thrive.net. Or, of course, you can also find him at richcavaness.com or on LinkedIn. Or, of course, you can always reach out to me and I will be happy to make a warm introduction to my good friend, Rich Cavaness. This is the Maximize Business Value podcast, where we give practical advice to business owners on how to build long-term sustainable value in your business. Be sure to tune in each week and follow us wherever you found this podcast. Now, if you happen to be listening on the week that this episode is released, then happy Thanksgiving to you. Until next time, I'm Tom Bronson, reminding you that God truly gave you the power to thrive while you maximize business value.
Thank you for tuning into the Maximize Business Value podcast with Tom Bronson. This podcast is brought to you by Mastery Partners, where our mission is to equip business owners to maximize business value so they can transition on their terms. Learn more on how to build long-term sustainable business value and get free value-building tools by visiting our website, www.masterypartners.com. That's master with a Y, masterypartners.com. Check it out.
That was perfect. I wouldn't make any changes on that.